A former North Spencer employee faces potential charges after money is found missing in a state audit. Kerry Schneider brings us his weekly report from the Du Bois County Humane Society, and sports with Kurt Gooksell. Those stories and much more are up next here on 18 WJTS News. Hello, I'm Bradford Raths. In your news, a former employee of a Spencer County School District faces accusations that she stole money from the school system. Authorities say former North Spencer School Corporation employee Melissa Isaacs stands accused of stealing $106,000 from the corporation. Isaacs was fired from the district back in February. North Spencer School Corporation Superintendent Dan Sherry says though it's not a good situation for the corporation, he feels strongly that the school district will be able to continue funding programs for the district.
We feel very confident that our programs have not and will not suffer. We can always use funds, but we've been a very conservative corporation over time, and so we traditionally have not spent money that we don't have, and so when there's shortfalls in certain funds, we just don't spend that money.
The state audit, which was recently released by the school corporation, alleges that Isaacs failed to deposit money several times over the last several years. Those include more than $45,000 in textbook rental fees, more than $1,000 in athletic ticket sales money and letter jacket payments, more than $1,500 in parking fees, and almost $8,000 in school lunch payments. Isaacs also stands accused of taking several $1,000s out of school funds without authorization. The audit says the school system is owed more than $83,500 from Isaacs, and the state is owed over $34,100 in audit costs. No formal charges are pending against Isaacs at this time, though the investigation is ongoing. Last night, the Du Bois County Airport Authority continued its discussion on the current issues surrounding Runway 9 at the Huntingburg Airport. A grove of trees planted near the airport's towers years ago has now sprouted up to the point where some pilots are not able to land at night. The DCAA is now seeking solutions to get the tree problem solved. DCAA President Michael Cummings says trimming the trees near the towers will solve the problem, but there might be other impacts to doing that. He says the DCAA will continue to look at everything involved in the process.
So there's obviously an environmental impact when you're cutting trees down and that kind of thing, and so we're not quite sure exactly the extent to which we'll have to do environmental work there. We're talking about a property or a parcel where we'd have an easement on less than 3 acres, so it's potential that we would have an exclusion just based on the small size of the parcel, that we wouldn't have to do a full-blown environmental assessment, but that remains to be seen.
Cummings says an easement that the airport is seeking with the property owner would allow for the trees to be trimmed down to restore the lost access for pilots. He says the trees pose multiple problems, and solving the problems will make life easier for everyone that uses the airport.
It's a safety issue, first and foremost. It's also an accessibility issue under certain weather conditions and fogginess or whatever. Some of our tenants here may not be able to land, and that's a problem for us. We want our tenants to be able to get in and out all the time, as that's the ideal, and we certainly don't want any safety issues, and so that's why that's really our number one priority. It's a service issue.
Also last night, the DCAA discussed the approach on Runway 9 and the choice between a circular or a straight approach for pilots. Cummings says a circular approach is currently not allowed due to the tree obstruction, but would allow for pilots to circle for a landing if they could not make a straight approach onto the runway. The DCAA also approved the rollover of this year's remaining primary non-entitlement funds to next year. The DCAA is currently awaiting final approval on an environmental assistance grant and is considering an airport layout plan grant for next year to work on its airport layout of the future. Finally, last night, the DCAA heard a report from Airport Manager Travis McQueen concerning fuel prices. In this year's Indiana General Assembly, the tax on jet fuel was set at 10 cents per gallon. Previously, it was subject to the 7% state sales tax per gallon. McQueen reported that prices per gallon are currently at $5.08 per gallon for Jet A fuel, $5.69 per gallon for 100 low lead full service, and $5.44 per gallon for 100 low lead self-service. Cummings says to this point, the fuel price changes have not had much impact on the amount of fuel sold, despite an anticipated bump in activity. He says the airport's relative competitive position has not changed as prices went down across the board all over the state. Throughout the last year, as the Interstate 67 Development Corporation made a push towards the construction of I67 to connect Du Bois County with Interstate 69 at Washington, one of the biggest supporters of the project has been Indiana Lieutenant Governor and Ferdinand native Sue Ellspermann. Ellspermann says the efforts of the I67 Development Corporation have been a big part of the project's progress.
Well, with the I67 project, very proud of the way the two states have come together to really look at the project, to do the initial feasibility studies, and then to present those findings to the state. As you know, an investment like that is significant, and I think our approach under the leadership of Hank Menke with the Development Corporation is a model for the state of how new infrastructure ideas should be considered.
From her perspective as someone who is from Du Bois County, Ellspermann says should the highway be built, there would be numerous benefits for her home county.
Well, I think from a jobs and business standpoint, it will be tremendous in addition to the quality of life as we can improve on the safety standards that are happening on 231 today. We know that it has a high accident, is related to other roads, so making those safety improvements as well as the convenience and the time and efficiency improvements will be tremendous.
Ellspermann also says having an interstate highway in Du Bois County would be key to attracting business to the area.
Well, when businesses look to locate, they see an interstate almost like a brand. They want to be within 5 or 10 miles of interstate access. So for both our companies that are here to have that efficiency as well as to be attractive for new businesses to want to move into the county, it would be tremendous as a marketing tool, as something that would attract new business to Du Bois County.
Earlier this year, the I67 Development Corporation made a trip to Washington, D.C. to meet with lawmakers, including District 8 Representative Larry Bouchon and Indiana Senators Dan Coates and Joe Donnelly. Several area entities, including the cities of Jasper and Huntingburg, as well as economic development group Du Bois Strong, have pledged their support for the project. Coming up after the break, Kerry Schneider brings us his weekly report from the Du Bois County Humane Society, plus your local forecast, sports with Kurt Guxell, and Inform with 2013 Miss Du Bois County and 2013 Junior Miss Du Bois County. That's all up next here on 18 WJTS News. Local people watching local people.